right outside, so come on in, don't be shy. We've got ghosts and UFOs. Brace yourself, get ready for the show. Don't be afraid of the dark, the fun's about to start. Nightmares or tales will inspire. Oh, tonight at the Scaredy Campfire. Have you heard tell of a demon next door? Or maybe a cryptid on the lake shore? There's nothing too strange for us here, so if you're ready, stamp out your fear. Don't be afraid of the dark, the fun's about to start. Nightmares or tales will inspire. Tonight at the Scaredy Campfire. Whoa, whoa.
Welcome back, campers, to episode 47 of the Scaredy Campfires. Our tale tonight slips in like a cold draft under a locked door, subtle, unnerving, and impossible to ignore once you've felt it. Some encounters don't announce themselves. They simply wait for you to notice them staring back. Our first story of the night comes from u/Ouija Blazer, whose rented apartment held quite unsettling secret, one she didn't fully understand until someone with true sensitivity stepped inside. So I have been living in a rented apartment for 3 years now. Sometimes I have this feeling when I'm alone that I'm not alone. I can't describe it any better. I don't feel scared. I don't feel watched. I don't feel a presence. I just feel I'm not alone. So it's a 2-bedroom apartment. I live with my husband. Other room is mainly his office. I also keep unfolded laundry there. Let's say that room can be very cluttered. Embarrassed to say it's mostly cluttered. Sometimes when we fight, I sleep in the office room. Few things to know about me. I'm obsessed with horror content, facts, stories, but I'm quite brave too. Also a bit sensitive to energies. So, one night, this angry wife decided to sleep in the office room. We have a bed there, and I remember waking up that night very often. Felt like somebody was waking me up. I didn't feel anything, but the whole experience was like I'm sleeping, I'm waking up, looking around me, and then sleeping with an underlying feeling of being woken up by someone. It was an uncomfortable night. My husband's PC has too many flashy lights, and he keeps it on. As he's running some experiments on them, they execute through the night. I felt it was the little sound of the PC and flashy lights that made me uncomfortable. This scenario ends here. A couple of months later, my meditation teacher came to visit us and stayed with us. My meditation teacher is extremely advanced meditation practitioner and has the ability to see and sense things. He can also look into people just by looking into their eyes. This happens to people who have meditated for decades. It's quite normal to have strong psychic abilities. During the first night of his stay, he had an unpleasant experience sleeping in that room, which was now not cluttered and was well organized. During the breakfast next day, he mentioned it was an uncomfortable sleep. I casually asked him, "Do you think there is a presence in that room?" He calmly says, "Yes." I mentioned he didn't want to scare us, so he did not mention this earlier. He also said it was not a bad one. It's a neutral one. That evening he did a ritual to send the presence away. It's all chill now. It just put me into contemplation about my past experience sleeping in that room and about how I generally feel living there. Oh, yeah, when he was sending it away, he told us that presence feels irritated when we're sending it away. He also advised us to keep the house free of clutter. Another thing, we have had my mother-in-law staying in that room 1 year before this incident happened. She stayed for 6 months. Even she had trouble sleeping with peace in that room. We always blamed the mattress. Haha. Also, most of the things in that room, furniture was bought used. Not sure if that spirit came with something. Even now, the memory lingers. The restless nights, the feeling of not being alone, the presence that grew irritated when it was finally sent away. And while the apartment feels calm today, you/Ouija Blazer still can't shake the thought that some spirits arrive with things we bring home and leave only when asked. Tonight's second story comes from Reddit user u/Pentagraphic, a skeptic who, for most of his life, dismissed the paranormal as exaggeration, illusion, or outright lies. But one quiet Sunday, inside an ordinary apartment, something happened that forced him to question everything he believed, and someone or something began paying attention to him in return. I'm generally a skeptical person. I have a hard time believing or validating paranormal experiences when I read about them, especially those from people who claim to see demonic entities in some corner of their room, as if an encounter with a supposed paradimensional being wouldn't drive you completely crazy. To me, they're garbage. I think 99% of testimonies are fabrications, bullshit, intended to generate interaction, or the result of some mental illness. However, I recently recalled an experience that happened to me that makes me question everything I believe in. I normally believe in the scientific method, evidence, records, documentation, everything we already know. But when something inexplicable happens to you, believe me, it's the last thing on your mind. I'm sure what I experienced is part of that 1% that remains undefined. I mean, I swear it happened, but I have no explanation for what it was, other than a paranormal phenomenon. It all started one afternoon, after 7 or 8 years ago. It was a Sunday. I was staying with my girlfriend, now wife, whom I'll call Lydia for practical purposes, in her apartment, which she shared with a friend. This friend, whom I'll call Lorna, had a cat. The apartment wasn't very large. At the back were two adjoining bedrooms. The center of the apartment was divided into thirds. A living room, the larger third, and the kitchen and bathroom made up the remaining 2/3 on the edge. Beyond that area was a small foyer and the hallway with the door. That afternoon, Lydia and I were in her room. The door was open because the three of us were very close and friendly with Lorna. We all belonged to the same group of friends. As far as I can remember, we were watching a movie on her computer when suddenly we heard a deep voice that seemed to be coming from the small foyer area, completely on the other side of the apartment. We didn't understand the words spoken, but we were sure it was a voice. We were scared because it sounded like a wail. I peeked out of the corner of my eye, thinking Elle was the one who had spoken. The cat even left Lorna's room and headed over there, perhaps attracted by the voice. But instantly Lorna called her cat back. Her voice was definitely coming from her room, while the voice we heard sounded louder and came from the other side of the apartment. We stared at each other and went outside to look in Lorna's room to ask if she had also heard the voice. She said yes, as a feeling ran down our spines. We went to eat and talked and drank until we forgot about the incident. The voice seemed to be a woman's. I decided it was a neighbor, but it wasn't long before increasingly terrifying phenomena began to occur. The voice incident had only been the beginning. A couple of days later, Lorna said she heard noises in the kitchen while we were out of the house. But what happened to Lydia and me a few nights later is something that continues to disturb and give me goosebumps to this day. The city where we live is in an area with high seismic activity, so we're familiar with shaking and the automatic reaction to it. One night, we were asleep when our bed started shaking seismically. We felt a shaking from top to bottom. We woke up, quickly got out of bed, and went to find a safe area. But there was no more earthquake. We checked social media, nothing at all. Something had violently shaken the bed, so much so that we thought it was an earthquake. We went back to bed but couldn't sleep. We felt a strange vibe around us. That's when we began to consider the possibility that maybe something otherworldly was living with us. The phenomena continued to increase in intensity, but for some reason they focused primarily on Lydia. Whenever we were together, she would be physically attacked. Something would suddenly touch her leg or her arm. The phenomena even began to manifest outside the home. Whenever we walked down the street, something would touch her back or her hair. Lydia was desperate and scared to death. It didn't matter if we were together, hugging, or laying in bed. Something would suddenly touch her somewhere on her body. We didn't know what to do, so we decided to leave the house for a while and travel to her parents' house in another state. Lydia went ahead and went to her parents' city. I would catch up with her in a few days because she needed to resolve some work issues. We stayed in touch by phone and relieved. She told me she hadn't been attacked. The day I was supposed to leave arrived, and I was finishing packing my suitcase when I suddenly felt a very strong presence in the room, specifically in the space between the closet and the bed. I decided to hurry and rush to the airport. I got up, grabbed my suitcase, looked at the lamp on the nightstand, and as if I were dreaming, the lampshade, which was made of dangling beads, moved in a ripple as if a hand had moved across it. It looked towards the window, hoping it was open and just the breeze, but it was completely closed. It's the most impressive thing I've ever seen, and the most terrifying. I don't know how to deal with it, even though I'm a skeptic by nature. It really was an invisible hand moving the beads on the lamp before my eyes. I ran as fast as I could, my legs barely responding. Even now, I'm terrified, and it's been about 7 or 8 years. I'll never forget that movement and the feeling of being accompanied by something inhuman. I caught up with Lydia in the other city, and we relaxed for a couple of days until we sadly discovered that it was all too good to be true. One night, around 1 or 2 in the morning, the blender in the kitchen turned on by itself. Whatever was stalking us had followed us to the other city. I suppose it went with me. Lydia was physically attacked again. Something continued to touch her legs, arms, and back, even in the other city. Desperate, we told her parents everything, and her mother advised us to repeat a prayer every night and light a candle to light the way for whatever was manifesting. She also suggested leaving her a blank sheet of paper and a pencil at night after asking her what she wanted from us. We returned dejected and defeated. I confess I thought Lydia was losing her mind, but then I remembered that damned movement of the lampshade and how the bed shook. I was experiencing it too, but not as intensely as she was. When we returned home, we did everything Lydia's mother advised, except for the blank sheet of paper. We were too scared to think about establishing communication. We aren't believers, but we prayed and lit the candle until one night I had a kind of sleep paralysis. I was in the room with Lydia by my side. At the foot of the bed, a figure rose up. It was a tall woman dressed in black, watching us. The vision occurred in a dreamlike state, so I don't know if it was really the entity or just my mind and a suggestion giving it form. But after that night, the phenomena stopped. Lydia stopped feeling touched, and I never felt any presence again. I wish I had proof. I wish I had a video of the beaded lampshade moving on its own, but it took me by surprise. I don't think anyone is prepared for something like that. In written form, it might not seem as scary or intimidating, but it was some of the strangest and most disconcerting days I've ever had. I'm still struggling to accept what happened. I don't know what to think about it. I'm still processing it. In the meantime, I still consider myself a skeptic and agnostic, but even now and then I pray that she doesn't come back. That wraps up tonight's account, campers, and here's the part that unsettles even seasoned skeptics. U/Pentagraphic still doesn't know what followed him or why it eventually stopped. He says he still prays it never finds its way back, because whatever it was, it seemed far too aware of them. That concludes episode 47, campers. If a chill follows you on your way home, don't look over your shoulders too quickly. Let it pass, or at least pretend it does. Stay warm, stay wary, and stay close to the embers.
As the night gets longer and the darkness creeps in, with the eerie silence broken only by whispering wind, come gather round the fire, the flickering flames, and hear the tales of the spooky and the strange. Chill up your back, a shiver up your spine. You'll be haunted by the things that you find. Legends will unfold and stories will be told at a scary campfire, for only